Ladies and gents, welcome back. Looks like I forgot to get the live stream chat in front of my eyes here. I have it on the screen over there, but I need to. I'm an old guy now. I need to have like magnification going on here. So I have another monitor where I keep the live chat in. Let me just grab that out so I can pop that in there, so I could communicate with all of you lovely people this evening. Welcome back to the live show. This happens every Friday evening. If you're new to the channel, I do videos every morning, every single morning. It seems like I'm doing them in other times of days as well. There's so many news stories to get to, so I just try to, and I'm trying to sparse it out and time out different people, because different people are getting notifications at different times. Some people are not getting notifications at all, and that's another story altogether. But let's see who gets those notifications and where they get them. Let's pull the chat in here. Come on, chat. Here we go. Good evening. Absolutely. Good evening to all of you. Welcome to the chat and welcome to the live show. We got a good show planned here for you tonight. I have some special guests. Northern Perspective are coming on the show this evening. That'll be later on in about an hour. They're going to come in after we talk about some of these stories from this week. A lot of them just from the end of the week. It was kind of a slow one at first, and then things ramped up and lots of things started happening. I think that's the usual thing for the week. They always try to push everything for a Friday, so everybody will hopefully forget come Monday when it gets back to going and doing your normal life instead of, well, I mean, most people don't forget about all this stuff when they go for their weekend and spend their time with their families, especially in the summertime, and that's where we are now. Big thanks to everybody who supports the channel via memberships. Memberships are a big thing. It helps a lot. Of course, you guys can help out with all sorts of ways. Hitting that like button is definitely a big focus that I put on the live streams here, and I thank you all for doing that. The like button, of course, what it does is it helps the algorithm figure out what's going on with the whole thing here and who likes what, and as long as people are liking something, they're going to recommend it to more people with the same sort of habits, the things that they like to watch. Hey, Chippy's Outdoors gifting 10 Clyde Do Something memberships to the channel. Thank you so much. Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. Wow, and you, everybody in the chat, get in there and thank Chippy's Outdoors for giving you a membership. 10 chat members here tonight just got a new membership to the channel. Now there's gonna be some perks coming with those memberships coming up soon. We've been working on these behind the scenes. I've actually I told you last week that we started a merch store. It's not out yet. I've been working through some of the snags. Some of the snags are the fact that I want to incorporate it with the channel. That takes a bunch of organization. It takes a lot of stuff to figure out. Organizing it with the channel, and the main purpose of this is for longtime members. I want to give a discount for any of the merch on the stuff, because you give to the channel, you gotta give back to the community as much as we possibly can. But yeah, this is something that I wanted to set up for members. So if you're a longtime member, look forward to that as we bring things out. Bay with the $10 super chat. Thank you so much. All newcomers to Canada must have a trade skill: carpentry, plumbing, electrician, welding. Clyde, sup, bro? You forgot mechanics. You're talking to one. Yeah, we're shy. We're so short of mechanics in our industry. Is just really suffering. Thank you so much, Bebe, with the $10 super chat. But yes, if we're gonna bring immigrants into our country, we absolutely have ones that come in with benefit for the exchange. The whole concept of bringing people in and allowing them to come here, and we have social safety nets we've all paid into. Newcomers want to be able to use those things if they need them. Well, we should have a good exchange. Bring skills with you. That would be fantastic. Sierra Delta, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Hi, Clyde, can I send you something with can I send you something with your logo on it? If it's something you're interested in, maybe it can end up in your new merch store. Okay, Yeah, send me something with my logo on it. Are you talking about a physical item? I have a PO box. If you go to, I'll just pull it up so everybody can find it and know where to find it. It's pretty easy. Get people to. So many people wanted to mail me things. If I give out my home address on the internet, that's kind of whoa. That's not the best of ideas out there, but. So I set it up where people can mail me at my PO box. So I have that set up here. Check that out. That's right here. Clyde Do Something PO Box 3424 Garibaldi Highlands PO BC. And postal code's right there. It's under the About tab if you go to the channel. So this is where you would land if you were to just click YouTube / Clyde Do Something. This is where you'd land. You go all the way to the right and click the About page. But boom, it'll give you that if that's what you want to do. If you want to send a physical thing. If not, you can send me stuff on Twitter, Discord, Instagram. I have all kinds of ways of people getting a hold of me. I leave my DMs open and I check them periodically on the. And if things don't get through, just try again. Sorry if I don't hear from you. Things happen. And I also have my email available there for people. It's on the About section too. You can email me and I'll get back to you if I possibly can. G-Meister, the $10 super chat. My gripe is immigrants that are not Canadian citizens working for... wait, sorry. My gripe is immigrants that are not Canadian citizens working for either the province or federal government. Not Canadian citizens. So if they're not Canadian, well, if they're immigrants, eventually they could become Canadian citizens. But if they're working for the government, yeah, that's a bit of a gripe. But I don't know. How would you do that? How would you set up a set of parameters where only Canadian citizens are allowed to work for the government? Is that something you're advocating for? I'd like to hear more of that discussion. I probably will tonight, G-Meister, in the Discord. Again, if you want to continue these conversations, go check out the Discord. We're always having lively conversations. After these live chats on YouTube, we go over to the Discord. I think we're going to try to do something too. We're going to experiment with some, I want to say like call-in show type stuff. For members and do member streams after the usual live streams. I'm interested to hear what people from the community think of those ideas, but you know we'll try to get into that as we've been getting into trying to do different things, trying to do new different things. ScrewTube is I don't know that ScrewTube. Oh, and by the way, that was another thing. I was mirroring all my content over onto Rumble. And the problem with Rumble is nobody was finding my content there at all. So I decided to stop mirroring my content on Rumble. So you can check it out on the YouTube page. I'll have an archive of it somewhere else as well. But yeah, I took the mirroring thing off on Rumble. Most people use YouTube that use Rumble anyway. There's not a lot of people who only exclusively use Rumble. If you only exclusively use Rumble, you're not hearing me say this right now. So, I mean, I don't live stream on the Rumble. I live stream exclusively on YouTube. So, yeah, that's a thing. We'll see what happens with Rumble, but they haven't been recommending any of my content. So I'm just throwing it up there and it's So I kept checking on it and nothing really worked. Use X, formerly Twitter. They don't have a mirror function, but what I have been doing is if any videos get age gated or suppressed in any sort of way, what I do is I'll upload those videos directly to X. They don't get the view count that they get on YouTube, but I put them up there to make them more available to people if they're being suppressed anyway. Trish Prue giving 5 memberships to the community. Thank you so much, Trish Prue, and everybody get in the chat who just got a new membership, and please say thank you so much. Bob McBob, Clyde loves a Rumble. Yeah, I love a Rumble. It's a funny thing because like all these people are being invited over to Rumble to go over exclusively. I think the thing is, if you're giving them everything anyway, it was the incentive of getting you to go over there. So if you want Rumble to want to entice me over there, maybe tell the people over at Rumble, hey, we need to get Clyde do something on the platform because he's not there anymore. And that's that's kind of where it's at in the meantime, in the intermediate anyway. I want less government workers, not concerned whether they have citizenship or not. Government jobs should have no higher compensation than private industry jobs. Problem solved. Well, I think it's just, yeah, it's ridiculous that people who work in the public sector would ever make more money than somebody who's working the same job in the private sector. That is just ridiculous, and it should never happen at all. Rumble is owned by BlackRock. I don't know if that's true. I don't think that's true. Rumble offers 100% of the subscriber money to creator, no cut to Rumble. I don't know. That's not what I've heard, but I'll look into it. I will look into that. I know that they do a better cut of that, but YouTube is very rewards their creators with ad revenue from their ad service, and that's a big thing. Clyde is too nice and polite to be on Rumble. Yeah, I guess you gotta get kicked off of YouTube first before Rumble becomes a thing for you, I guess. YouTube's not kicking me off anytime soon, but I have noticed that notifications haven't been going out as much for people. And this is a plea, for everybody who likes the channel and likes what's going on here. Don't forget to share. There is the share function. You can, click the copy link on videos, things like that. I'll just give an example here. If we pop open, why am I here? What happened there? I didn't mean to pop that open. Yikes. Hold on. If you're on a video on YouTube, let me see if I can share an example of this. But if you're on, that's my live stream, sorry. Oh, technical difficulties, of course. But yeah, if you want to share, you hit the share button, and it gives you many options to share. But even just hitting the copy button and then copying that link to your thing, it helps the channel out quite a bit, tremendously. So always consider that as an option when you are browsing all this stuff. And of course, so many of you hitting that join button, and I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. It helps tremendously. And we're going to be bringing lots of more cool stuff to the channel as we get on with this. But speaking of getting on with this, I need to get to some of these stories. In a little bit, we're going to be bringing on Northern Perspective and having a chat with them. But I wanted to talk about some of the things that were happening, especially at the end of the week here. But I wanted to show this one clip. And before we get to that, G-Meister with another $10 super chat. Thank you so much, my man. Gibo, aka Gasbag, is going to China. So we're sending a convict to a communist country. What can possibly go wrong? Well, we'll get into that. Gibo, am I pronouncing it wrong? I thought I was pronouncing it right. I got somebody said, Clyde, because you're American, you're pronouncing it wrong. Stop trying. Gibo. I thought that was how it's done. It's or I could call him Gwilbalt. it's one of those. It's one of those. Which one? I'm not sure. But yeah, we're gonna get into that. Some of the stuff about Gibo being sent over to China to work for China, not to work as a Canadian ambassador. No, not at all. But we'll get into that. I wanted to share with you a bit of the cultural stuff. And if you notice, I did do a story about the Snow White. I'm going to talk about that a little bit, not too much tonight. But I wanted to share that because, well, my family, I've got young kids, right? And this is an important thing. Gibo is correct. Okay, I got that right. Gibo is the way to say it. Quilbalt. yeah, that's one way of saying it. But I wanted to get into this because I know I would hate to be on the dating scene today, because I think it would be ridiculous to try to find a mate in this world that we live in today. I've been married for 17 years. I'm very happily married. I've got 2 beautiful children, and I'm very happy in my situation. I don't think I would ever leave that for the world, but spell it Gilbo. Okay. Anyway, the whole dating scene must suck for a lot of people, but here's an interesting term that I never heard of, and this was brought up by the Daily Wired by Brett Cooper when she was talking with Ben Shapiro of the term. And tell me if in the chat if you've ever heard of this. But they call themselves passport bros, and it's funny. A lot of people are going to think I fall in this category, and I'll explain to you why I don't. But nonetheless, we used to call it the Foreign Wives Club, but here we go. Here is a new definition of a term, and it's funny.
Passport bros?
What is a passport bro?
Okay, passport bros are men that are so fed up with Western women because we're all apparently so woke and so terrible, and Western women don't want to be wives, that they are now going to other countries to find wives.
Wife material.
That's like which countries?
Southeast Asia, the Philippines,
The good ones.
Dominican Republic.
So it's like the opposite of the mail order bride.
Yes,
They're like,
exactly.
okay.
So a lot of these men get remote jobs. And so they go there and they live in these countries and then they meet these women. And then women in the Western world, specifically the United States, are so pissed off about it. And they're like, you're going to all these countries where these women don't even know how to speak English. They can't even read. They're so uneducated. And then the men like film themselves with these women and like show themselves on dates.
And they're
the
happy.
women are so elegant and they're so well spoken and they're so traditional. And they're like, look at these women. Yeah, passport bros. Because Western women are so bad.
Did not know about that.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's why I'm here. Oh, have you heard of passport bros?
Yeah, passport bros, because Western women are so bad. Oh, it's so funny. It really is. It really is funny. So we used to call it the Foreign Wives Club because, and it's funny because my wife's Japanese, right? And she's from Japan. We met here in Canada, though. By the way, I didn't go over there with that explicit intent of finding myself a one of the good wives or whatever you call it. But no, my daughter likes Brett. Yeah, okay. Brett is funny. Brett is really funny. But yeah, this concept of passport bros, and the idea is that, yeah, feminism has come over and it's ruined our culture. It's ruined a lot of stuff. And it's not ruined just women. It's ruined men too. Absolutely. It's ruined men. We have male feminists as our prime minister. It's unbelievable. And, you know, we saw his recent pictures with his son and his daughter. And while the son one, I mean, most people just confused that picture with the other pictures that were coming out of him posing with gay men at the pride parades. But that is a thing. Clyde did something in Japan. Yeah, I did. I've done many things in Japan. We lived over there, but I didn't meet my wife in Japan, so I don't think I count as a passport bruh. I think my wife's a passport gal from Japan, coming over to meet one of the Westerners. This seems to be a trend, though. It does absolutely. Patch Duress with a $27.99 super chat. Why do you guys East Plain and West Canada keep voting for Fidel's son or continue to vote for failed policies like the NDP? Those trending poor TikTokers, Atlantic Canada doesn't need that or will be part of Maine. Are you saying that you'll leave Atlantic Canada and just go and join Maine if this is the case? Well, here's the problem with this whole scenario. And thank you so much for that super chat, Patch Duress. The issue is not with Western Canada. Well, I mean, don't get me wrong. For some reason they keep voting the NDP in British Columbia. So I get you there. Absolutely get you there. But when it comes to the federal vote, we don't even have a say. As soon as it passes Ontario, they call it every single time. It's usually the Maritimes, Quebec, and then Ontario votes, and then they call it before we even get to see what we voted for in the West. So that's a thing, unfortunately. But yeah, no, everything has gone bass backwards, let's just say. With all these failed policies, but these failed policies are starting to wake people up. It's actually ridiculous, and it's emboldened the sitting people in power, and we're going to get into that. Some of the stuff that Christia Freeland had to say recently at a speech over in Boston, talking to people that are graduating from their universities, and a little bit about what the people in those universities actually had to say. Patch Duress again with the $6.99 super chat. Thank you so much. Lol, leave Canada to the fuck. Oh wow, some of this is hard to read. We're going to be absorbed by the USA. Some people wouldn't even mind that, to be honest. I'm a dual citizen, so I mean, just throwing that out there. It would be nice to not have the Liberals or the NDP in office anymore in Canada. A lot of people would also say the Conservatives, because it's a bit of an establishment party. It's a lot like that in the U.S. too. So we all of our countries have our problems, but that is a thing. Oh, Snatch, sweet membership gift. Yeah, they've been gifting out those memberships tonight, and it's fantastic to see people getting those. And if you noticed, everybody gets a special moniker. They have the icons next to all the members to show how long you've been a member. There's a code. You can actually go to the channel and check it out for yourself. You see what the code means and how long a member you have to be to get to what colors. But that's the way it goes. If Canada gets rid of the monarchy, I'm moving to the States. If they get rid of the monarchy, if we get rid of the king, is that what you're saying? They don't have the king in the States. So I'll tell you that. I'm not so against the monarchy going away. I mean, what use do they have except for the fact that apparently the King of England, Charles, has final say in Canada? Well, we'll see. We'll see about that. But let's get into this real quick before we move on to Canadian politics. I wanted to just talk briefly about the Snow White thing. I covered the story earlier this week. Holy cow, you guys are just coming through tonight. That's amazing. Linda Hunter, member for 8 months. Hello, 07. Just is that a code for something? Just wanted to say that 7 of these months are because I'm gifted. Wow, that's amazing. 7 months. 7 months, and 7 of those are because you've been gifted. That's amazing. That's actually really, really cool. So I wanted to get into this only briefly. I'm not going to talk about it for very long, but it's this whole idea of Snow White, and I covered it in a video. I know a lot of people didn't click on it. That's fine, but I am going to start, because I do like to talk about some of these cultural issues, and this was one of those ones, and it's really the crux of what's turned me off about media and movies these days, and Disney is at the forefront of this. Bebe with this $5 super chat. Got to create stricter limits on creating new cabinet divisions and ministers. That would actually be a good thing. Or even recreating the names. The Minister of the Environment shouldn't be the Ministry of the Environment and Climate Change. I mean, this is a contested thing that, of course, has got a consensus, the false consensus that's been challenged lately. But a ministry, why don't we have the Ministry of the Boogeyman? Like, seriously, honestly, this is where we're at with this. But anyway, getting back to this, Disney has become this big giant the symbol of everything that's wrong with our culture at the moment, where they're pushing things on people and saying, you got to do this, you got to do that. You can't enjoy the things that you enjoy. And if you enjoy the things that you enjoy, well, there's something wrong with you, and we need to change it, and we need to molest what it is that you love and introduce it to your children as this awful thing. And this is the take from this woman. What is her name again? I keep forgetting her name as it's that forgettable for me. Zegler. Sorry, Rachel Zegler, as she got the job for the part of Snow White. Now, Snow White, of course, is a lot of things are being said that is whitewashing. You're using ethnic people in roles that were white roles. Of course, Snow White being the one that's specifically that, where it's said in the old German story that her skin, she's supposed to be fair. Her skin is white as snow, and her lips red as blood, and the whole story. But she is. The story goes where she gets, the queen, the evil queen, wants to put her down for being the fairest of them all, and the queen wanted to be the fairest of them all because she was a narcissist. Anyway, Prince Charming comes and saves her. That's the story, and she was not happy with this story. Patch Duress with the $6.99 super chat. Do you think Oliver Anthony's hit song resonates with Canadians? Yes, even closer to women on TikTok complaining about voting for Fidel's son. I think Oliver Anthony's song absolutely does resonate with Canadians because we're all in that situation where we just feel like we can't make ends meet. Actually, I would say that Canadians, even though the song has specific undertones to the American experience, I think Canadians are suffering more at the moment than Americans are. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think across the whole board, that would be the case, not just specific regions. If you were to, say, oh, the people of this area are doing pretty bad. Well, across the board, Canadians are doing horribly. It is what it is with the $69.99 super chat. Hi, Clyde. How are you today? I'm great. Thank you so much for the $69.99. Going full bore with the $69.99 of the super chat. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And I'm doing great. I hope you're doing well as well. But let's get into this. I wanted to just get over this story so we can get into the other stuff. I don't want to dwell on it for too long. But anyway, she had this to say about her role in basically usurping this small cabal of people are taking this great story that millions and millions and millions of people love and destroying it. And they think that people will just respond in no way to this.
I mean, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
Yeah.
Weird.
Super weird.
So we didn't do that this time.
So no prince or a different kind of prince?
We have a different approach to what I'm sure a lot of people will assume is a love story just because, we cast a guy in the movie. Right. Andrew Burnap, great dude. Yeah. It's one of those things that I think everyone's going to have their assumptions about what it's actually going to be, but it's really not about the love story at all, which is really, really wonderful. And whether or not she finds love along the way is anybody's guess until 2024. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby.
All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Prince Charming cut from the film. It could happen. It's Hollywood, baby. Well, you know what might be Hollywood, baby? It might be that this film may not even happen anymore. There's been so much controversy over it when it came to this woman who, of course, is, pulling all of this stuff and jumping into it. She later had a heartfelt, I'm the victim, and this is why people are attacking me and sending me death threats and all this other stuff. Weird that people are really invested into this story and have, vested interest in it being a good thing. Weird. Isn't that weird? I don't know. Maybe that's weird. Maybe I'm weird. But if it's not being received well by this young Chihuahua here, I don't know what to say. They got rid of the dwarfs, the 7 dwarfs. That was the first thing they did before even bringing her out in this scenario. And this was thanks to Peter Dinklage, the guy who is himself famous as being a famous dwarf actor. And what did he do? He pulled up that little tiny ladder behind him and made sure that no dwarfs would be allowed to work in this film by saying that it was offensive. And this is where it just gets ridiculous. Of course, Northern Perspective, the $5 super chat. What are you super chatting? You're coming in the show in a little bit. Word on the streets is the title is changed to Snow Rainbow. Snow Rainbow and the 7 diversity hires. I think that might be the thing. No kidding. Thanks for the super chat, by the way. We'll be talking with you shortly. But Snow woke. There you go. It should be Snowflake. I mean, because they're all snowflakes, and that's their thing. But I wanted to get into this. I wanted to bring that story up because I've got kids, and they don't buy into this stuff, and we don't let them watch woke stuff because it's just stupid. We ended up showing them more Japanese stuff because they speak both languages, and unfortunately, most of this stuff is woke these days. So we're just like, too bad. Red Dwarf shortly. Red Dwarf was a great show. I admit. Oh, that was such a good. That was a good one, by the way. If anybody knows the reference to that, check it out. But this is how delusional people are today. This is the youth and the delusions that they're going through.
The problem with being a centrist is you have the left saying, I think trans people deserve rights and shouldn't be killed. And then you have the right saying, we want to kill trans people, we want a trans genocide. And then you're sitting in the middle there saying, both sides have really good points. I don't know, man, I'm a centrist. And that makes you just as bad.
So I don't even, what do you even say to this? So the term false dichotomy comes to mind immediately. This is it's a fallacy, an argumentative fallacy, false dichotomy of people who have the opinion on they're either this or they're either that. And if you're a centrist, what's being said here is that the extremes are so far is that they want people not to be killed and the other side wants people to be killed. And when did that become a stance of the right? That has never been the stance, but this is what this was what's being argued here. Yeah, go outside, touch grass, please. Touch grass instead of making your hair the same color as it. And now I got nothing against dyeing your hair and doing stupid stuff. I mean, I did all that stuff when I was a teenager. It doesn't matter, you know, you just want to be a rebel, but come on. What are you doing? Touch grass, figure it out. You're so off base. Now I left, this is obviously, this was from Cat Canada on Twitter. She's got lots of great posts. Follow her for sure. But Derek Smith from Unacceptable Fringe saying, I've never heard of people on the right saying anything about wanting genocide. Source your claims, please. Well, I replied to this saying, this is what happens when people presume the other person's opinion rather than listening. Dialogue is broken. Like Canada's broken, yes, but dialogue is broken. Why is it that, you know, people are just making these gross assumptions about what the other side thinks, and then it just gets ridiculous to the point where it's just absolutely absurd. And now we're in this situation where, does this person actually believe this? Like some people, maybe they do because they keep hearing this rhetoric, and that's just crazy. That's absolutely crazy. How far will this go before people become violent out of the irrational fear that they're being persecuted? And that's the real scenario here, in my opinion. I think this could happen. This could be, people might freak out. And I think this is what a lot of the woke culture people are looking for. They're looking for the useful idiots. And sorry, brah, or whatever you are, you're a useful idiot. Go touch grass. Go touch grass. Figure it out. And, you know, things might feel a little bit better for you. But see, here's some other useful idiots here in Canada. Apparently, the Chinese look down on Justin Trudeau quite considerably. Dan Fournier pointing it out to me on Twitter, saying that 30% of Chinese and other immigrants aged 34 and under communities state that they want to leave Canada within the next 2 years due to inflation and other reasons. See the list below. But this is something that's really funny. They've been calling him 007, the Chinese people have been. And this is because he's got zero major accomplishments, zero brain cells, and 7% inflation. And this is a real situation here. Let me get the chat back. We got G-Meister with another $10 super chat. Wow. BC just declared a state of emergency due to wildfires. 15,000 homes under evacuation. Sorry, off topic. No, that's crazy. I didn't know that there was a state of emergency declared. I'll obviously have to look into that. There's no forest fires near where I'm at, so I'm not worried about my home or any of my neighbors, but I definitely fear for all those other people, because I really get upset when people keep blaming it on the wrong things and actually exacerbate the situation in this whole scenario, especially with poor management of forests, and then blaming it on climate change. Like, oh, just throw your hands up, it's just climate change. No, we can mitigate this stuff, and we should be a lot more responsible with these things. Dixon Ciderbush, every time I say your name, it makes me laugh. Gifting 10 memberships to the channel. Thank you so much. That's amazing. So many new members tonight. Thanks everybody. Get in there and thank Dixon Ciderbush for the gift of a membership to you tonight. That's amazing. All right. But yeah, this is the thing. And I wanted to get into this because I wanted to get more people on the channel that are going through this. There's that YouTube channel, Angry Canadian Immigrant or something like that, and I wanted to get him on the channel. I was trying to get in touch with him, couldn't. It's been impossible. I tried a bunch, but that fell through. Looking to talk to immigrants that are actually going through this, but they're saying that there's nine reasons that people leave Canada, and of the 9 reasons, having high on unrealistic expectations, not finding the desired job, surviving in the cold winter. A lot of people didn't really know that that's what they were signing up for when they came over here. Having financial difficulties, becoming homesick, and that's just typical for anybody, really. Difficulty starting over. Well, that's hard, but it's definitely harder in Canada at the moment. Having health issues, well, that will destroy you because you're a year away from getting any sort of help here in Canada. Expensive real estate and rentals. It's some of the top in the world. Expensive public health and medical treatment. Hey, I thought our healthcare was free. Why is it expensive? Oh, okay. Do we have to really list that? I think everybody watching this channel by this point knows that that is just completely untrue, and it's just not the reality of the situation here in Canada. We don't have free healthcare. Nothing's free. You can't get blood from a stone, and when you give out free healthcare, all you're doing is you have to collect taxes to give it out. And yes, we're one of the most taxed nations in the world. And a lot of people used to say, I'm okay with that because I get free services. I got free healthcare. That's no problem. Blah, blah, blah. And then they go to use the healthcare service. And then, oh, I don't get to use it. Oh, okay. Well, here's the list that you get to wait on until you're dead. Okay, that's great. That's the public healthcare system. And it's really, really unfortunate the way it's going. But you could get speedy service if you're looking for MAID. Isn't that ironic? Isn't that completely ironic? In fact, yeah. I mean, there was that story recently about the guy, and I just can't get this one off my mind. There was a man in Canada who was denied a transplant surgery because of his vaccine status. He decided he did not want to get the vaccine for COVID-19, and a lot of people now looking at him as like, wow, it's a good thing that you held firm, but he didn't survive it because, well, he needed a transplant and he was denied that transplant. Now, right when he was dying, as he was dying of the disease or whatever it was that he needed a transplant for, his family was asked if he could be a donor. He's too unclean to receive somebody's organ, but he can donate, other people can take the organ from him. This is just absolutely disgusting. This is what's happening in Canada. It's unreal that this is a real story. It is just unbelievable that this is the reality that we live in. But yeah, I'm just gonna get mad. So I'm gonna move on from this story. I just wanted to say a bunch of comments after last week's live stream saying, Clyde, the energy you bring to the live streams are awesome. You should bring that to your videos. And so I've been really trying my best to do that. Bring the sort of energy that I have with these live streams in the videos. It makes it difficult. I mean, it's difficult in the morning when I usually make my videos to be so energetic. This is the evening for me, so it's quite easy to supernova at the end of the night. But I am doing my best to bring that kind of thing to you guys. There seems to be a fly in the room, and that's really annoying. I'm gonna maybe catch him at some point in this live stream, make it entertaining for you guys. Patch Duress with a $13.99 super chat. We could all survive the winter if it wasn't for Fidel's son scam climate tax policy BS propped up by his comrade criminal Stephen Guilbeault. And on another note, F mandatory organ donation. Yes, that's another one. Okay, we could get into that. Just briefly, New Brunswick has made it mandatory for people. If you didn't sign up, they're giving away your organs. And there's been some perverse incentives that have been coming up in this organ donor stuff when the hospitals know that you're an organ donor. There's been some really, really weird stuff going on when it comes to that. And I've been trying to gather more data because it seems like they're prematurely harvesting organs in some cases. And it makes me a little squeamish on that one. But before I make any allegations, I'm going to definitely research this story before I bring it to you guys. So that's the story. That's that there. Anyway, Paul R. with a $10 super chat. Let's go Canada. Net zero by 2025. 0 seats for the Liberals and NDP parties. By the way, Clyde, don't receive any notifications tonight from YouTube, X, Instagram, or Discord. I made the mistake of not posting this on Discord or Instagram. Somebody put this on Discord. Get that out there. Maybe I'll post this live on here to X. Let's get this out on X. Let's write something here. What is the Elon Musk? What are you posting? What are you posting, dude? Okay, whatever. We're gonna ignore what Elon Musk is posting live at the moment. And that fly, it's gonna drive me nuts. And we're gonna post it out to everybody that we're live. I need to get my special live thumbnail that I've hidden somewhere. There it is. Pop that up on there, everybody. We are live. No, that's got to be all caps. Live. Just put a link. Nothing special. Just a link. Here you go. This is what we're doing. Get the shareable link. Pop it on there. Done. We are live. Join right now, everybody out there on Twitter. I'm putting hardly any effort into this. Her face makes me ill. Well, this live stream might get really difficult for you because you're gonna be seeing her face again in this. Now let's get into some of these stories I wanted to talk about before it gets on too late, and then we bring in Northern Perspective. Well, we can always talk about these stories with Northern Perspective as well. Jolie working on a game plan for if the United States takes a far-right authoritarian shift after next year's presidential elections. No mention of their loving embrace with the far-left communist dictatorship of China. Bay with another super chat. You guys are crazy tonight. You guys are crazy. Bay, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Gotta dismantle 50% of our crown corps just to pay off our mafias. Then we fire every sergeant with no visible scars. Okay, we're going straight for the jugular on that one. Amazing. Now this is a thing this new trend of the left in Canada talking about far right. It's far right, and what is Jolie gonna do? Melanie Jolie, what are you gonna do as the Minister of Foreign Affairs? You gonna stop America from getting a far right? Far right? What is far right? You're gonna stop America from getting a president that disagrees with you politically? Is that really what you're gonna do? You're sending out threats? Are you sending out threats to America? Come on. We're a tiny little country. We're a big geographical area, but we are a tiny little country geopolitically compared to America. And it's not very wise to be throwing out threats like that. Clyde, Jolie's plan is step 1, sleep with Trudeau again. Step 2, okay. Well, that's all speculation. I don't like to speculate about that kind of stuff. Patch Duress with a $2.79 super chat. Melanie Jolie, not one of Fidel's son's mistresses. No, totally not. That's not happening. No, not at all. Now, the separation between Trudeau and what is her name? Sophie? That's a sham. They went on vacation together. The whole idea was that she will become exempt from disclosing information about her finances to the Ethics Commission. Once we have an ethics commissioner, which we don't have one because the last one appointed was a relative of the Prime Minister of Canada. You can't make this stuff up. It's just so crazy. I don't even know what to do with it anymore. But let's move on. The far right thing is really taking its toll, and here's them pushing their whatever it is, conspiracy theory of far rightism. What is the far right? Are we gonna find out about what that is in this statement? Oh, we'll find out.
Hello, Mr. Polyev. A number of your own comments and actions have been characterized as dog whistling to
By
the
who?
far right.
By who?
By a number of
By
different.
who?
But I think it's been
By
characterized
who?
by that way. But
By
are
who?
you trying to
Sorry,
court? Are
I
you
just
trying
need
to
I
court
need to
the far
clarify.
right
Sorry,
vote?
I just need to clarify. By who?
By a number of different experts and a number of
who are the
different people
experts?
who work
Who are the
work in this.
experts?
Okay, well, I think
All
it's
right.
been established that
Right.
this is
All
this
right.
is a concern.
it's-
Are
Oh,
you trying to court?
I love that. I think it's been established by this point that this is a concern. No, it hasn't. No, it hasn't. You're the first to bring it up, and that's it. You're the first to bring it up, and I'm sure other people will bring it up too, but that is just the case. You're just throwing that out there. Eat me with the $5 super chat. Jolie actually ran for mayor in Montreal quite a while back, and she lost, and we won because you didn't get her as a mayor. She ran to the federal party afterwards. Well, yeah, well, you just show that you will toe the line for them, and they will grab you up, snatch you up real quick, just like Gibo. Pastor S, thank you so much with another $13.99 super chat. Do you know Mr. Sunshine Baby? His theory of Fidel's son became Canada's first black and gay prime feminister. To be honest, it's hilarious, but I wouldn't put it past him. I don't believe that's true, but you know, we all try to do sensational headlines, I guess. That's what you do. You get that one out there, but it's kind of funny. But no, it's not. That's not news. I try to cover more. I mean, there's enough real stuff to laugh at. Unfortunately, this is anyway. Getting on with this one. Here's Polyev again being asked about this far right. You're totally far right, and the experts are saying this. No, there are no experts. Nobody's saying this. This is not happening.
Far right vote.
Who are these experts? You say that there are experts who are saying this. Who are they?
My question is, are you trying to court the
Sorry,
far right vote?
I'm sorry. Your question seems to be based on a false premise. You can't even tell me who these experts are. It sounds like it's just a CBC smear job. Thank you.
But
Next
what
question.
about the question about whether that's
The answer?
But what about the question that I asked? You got to answer the question. I made the premise. You got to accept the premise first. You have to accept the premise. Teresa's Teresa Wright is a CBC reporter, dude. Actually, she's not, but it's funnier. It's funnier than that, and we're gonna get to that in a minute. You have to accept the premise and then answer the question. No, I'm not gonna accept the premise. Your question is worthless once that premise is rejected, and that's the whole point.
The answer is that I have a common sense agenda to axe the carbon tax, bring home powerful paychecks, clear the way to build affordable homes, to put people in housing that they can afford.
Yeah, so all the things that Canadians are concerned about, he's talking about. How do you think Donald Trump won as president of the United States? He won because he talked about immigration, one of the biggest things that people were concerned about in the U.S. He talked about economy. He talked about the things that people care about. Of course, Pierre Poilievre, not really touching the immigration issue, which I think a lot of Canadians are pretty bummed out about. They're pretty bummed out that he's not jumping on that one because, well, obviously he doesn't want to be in a situation where, and this is why, right? This is why, just straight from the truth here. The idea here is that we're about to have a social security, a social insurance crisis, and we don't have enough people to pay the pensioners what they're owed. So they need that tax base to come back. We're losing people. We're going to have less and less people. But I don't think immigration is going to be the solution to it. It's going to be a problem. Steve Hyde with a $5 super chat. I'm not on Twitter, but I'm not on Twitter, but can those of you who are, please ask this journalist who the experts are. I think a lot of people have been asking who the experts are from this journalist. And why don't we just get into that right now? Because this is funny. So this is pointed out by Rowan the Stallion on Twitter. And this is, well, here it is. CBC smear job revealed. I'm not a CBC reporter, says Teresa in her tweet. She did put out a tweet. I tried to ask Pierre Poilievre whether he is trying to court the far-right vote. No, you made a bad premise saying that experts are saying that this is what he's doing. Experts aren't saying that. If you would have asked him, he would have just said no. But you're insinuating that that's happening. So that's not the question you were asking. He would not answer the question, saying my question sounded like a CBC smear job and a distraction from the real issues. I'm not a CBC reporter. You're not, but perhaps your husband is. Oh, my husband sent me flowers to my office for our anniversary. Thanks, Carrie W. Campbell. Well, who's Carrie W. Campbell? He is a provincial affairs reporter for the CBC in beautiful PEI. Oh, we found it. It didn't take long. It didn't take long. There you are. And that's what happens when people saying that ratio. That ratio. Here we go. Oh, oh boy. Yeah, that is quite the ratio. I didn't even see that. That's funny. For those that don't know what we're talking about here, the ratio is, because there's no thumbs down button, if somebody does says something objectionable, you, instead of thumbing down, you leave a comment. You leave a comment, and that's essentially, if there's enough comments and it outweighs the likes, then that's a ratio. And if you get ratioed, that means what it means. A lot of people didn't like your post, and that's exactly where we are. The embarrassment continues for reporter Teresa, who smeared Pierre Poilievre by associating him with the far right. Is her husband is the expert she was referring to, but refused to name. Too funny. It's ironic. The person asking Pierre the question is named right. Yeah, she's so wrong, and she is on the right. The right, you need to get on the right side of things. But who are the far right? I've been trying to figure this one out all week. I know there's the right side of the aisle, there's the left side of the aisle, there's communists. Those are far left. What are the far right? And we went over this political spectrum. Fascists are on the left. They're national socialists. Socialists. They have this whole horseshoe theory where you go so far left or you, what is it? You go so far left that you become the right as soon as you get really bad on the left, or is it the other way around? You want freedom so much that eventually you want to usurp everyone's freedoms. Is that how it works? I don't know. It's really, really just insane. Celebrate the first. Wow. Okay, that's a new one that I've seen on here. Thank you so much, Michael McLean. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. $10 super chat. Every PM falsely cabinet. Every PM falsu, is that like Trudeau, cabinet member has taken on its arrogant manner, i.e. Christia Slaveland. I like that instead of Freeland. Marco the Menace and Guibo. And yes, you pronounced it right. Ignore the French class dropouts. Okay, I was a French class dropout. I never went for that. The second language that I speak is actually Japanese. I don't speak French very well at all. But thank you so much, Michael McLean, for the $10 super chat. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. But who are these far rights? And I was searching all online. I couldn't figure it out because I kept looking and I'm like, okay, is this the far right? Is this what we look for in the far right? Or does it look like this? Is that the far right? I don't know. Is that the far right? Is this what we're looking at? Is that the far right? Oh, wait. Is that the far right? Or maybe that. Is that the far right? I don't know if you know what we're looking at here, but this, oh, that's the Ukraine. Oh, and that's Baron Berista, or whatever his name is. He's a coffee man. Barandista. These are the Barandistas. These are people that carry around signs that bandera. That's it. Barista. He was a Nazi collaborator that was popular since the Second World War for a bunch of far right people in Ukraine. Wait, is this what the far right looks like? You know, people that go around and carry signs that have the Azov Battalion and, you know, blood and soil, of course, that slogan, which is a Nazi slogan, or, you know, like this one that says blood and soil. Oh, who's that? Oh, yeah, that's, oh, right. That's where we're at with that. Peter K. Najad with a $5 super chat. Thank you so much. Justice for Garnet Harper. He was refused transplant and died. Medical discrimination must end. Yes, justice for was that his name, Garnet Harper? I didn't cover the story yet on the channel, but I wanted to bring that together with a lot of stuff, and thank you so much for the super chat. And yeah, justice for him. I don't even know. It upsets me too much. But this is yeah, I don't know. I get frustrated. I get absolutely frustrated. But let's get into this. I wanted to show this one clip too. This was Trudeau. This was actually a trip up from the Trudeau administration here, and what they. I mean, and this was a candid moment by Pierre Poilievre in an interview that he was having on. I don't even know what this channel is, but he posted it on his YouTube today, and it just really I can't believe it. This kills me, actually.
Just interviewed Minister Arif Irani, the Justice Minister, and he said I would need the support from Pierre Poilievre to bring on all the bail reforms.
Well, he's had our support.
Oh no, this cracked me up so much. This is too funny. Construction Cronies with a $20 super chat. Thank you so much. Clyde, thanks for keeping up the great Canadian fight, bro. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Construction Cronies. Wow. I really appreciate that. I will keep up the great Canadian fight. We are going to be bringing American content to the channel, but I will keep up the Canadian stuff. It's just every time there's a U.S. election, I always pay attention to it. I am a dual citizen. I am an American citizen, passport holder, all that stuff, and I do pay attention to the Republican nominations I have since Ron Paul. So if that doesn't float your boat, well, you know, hold tight, because I'll bring in Canadian content every day with it. I'll keep it on a cycle. So just so you guys know that it's not gonna go to the side. Canadian news is not gonna go on the side burner, but that's the thing. Anyway, if you didn't catch what just happened here in this video, this is Pierre Poilievre hearing that the justice minister, was it the justice minister, wanted Pierre to get on. It was saying that he would need the support from Pierre to get bail reform, which Pierre has been fighting for 8 years after Trudeau brought in bail that is detrimental, is actually letting people out on the streets right after they get they get pulled over for violent crimes and all this other stuff, all the trouble in our cities. The thing, this turns a Vancouver city into Gotham from a comic book, right? This is what's happening. And the leaders actually said this. I thought you might need the double take. So here it is for stars. You can catch why Pierre is actually laughing in this clip, because it's just so comical. It's crazy.
Just interviewed Minister Arif Irani, the Justice Minister, and
oh, that's awesome. My family also. Sorry.
Liberal government is the one that brought in the bail system.
Sorry. My family is also dual citizen, myself not included, but thinking about it lately. Oh, okay, well, a lot of people are thinking about it lately. We do still need people to keep the fight up in Canada. So I know so many people who have left, though. It's unbelievable. Anyway, thanks for the super chat, Construction Cronies. I really appreciate that. Anyway, getting back to this, because this cracks me right up.
Just interviewed Minister Arfurani, the Justice Minister, and he said I would need the support from Pierre Poilievre to bring on all the bail reforms.
This is a candid reaction. This is hilarious.
He's had our support. He didn't really say that.
Yes, he did. That's on the front page of Midweek, and that's on record.
Oh my God! Yeah. We've been calling to reverse Trudeau's catch and release bail policies for 8 years now. So the Liberal government is the one that brought in the bail system we have now.
Yes,
and that's why the same criminal is released within hours of being arrested. In Vancouver, because of Trudeau, the same 40 offenders were arrested 6,000 times. Let me say that again. 40 offenders arrested 6,000 times in a year.
Just that candid response kills me every time.
He's had our support. He didn't really say that.
Yes, he did. That's on the front page of Midweek, and that's on record.
Oh my God! Yeah. We've been calling to reverse Trudeau's catch and release bail policies for 8 years now.
Okay, here's what I'm gonna do. I got some guests coming in. I have to set up the scenes and make sure everything's working. While I'm doing that, I'll let you watch the rest of this video because it's just crazy to me. It's insane. So I'll be right back after I set all of this stuff up, and we'll be in here with Northern Perspective. Looking forward. I've been looking forward to chatting with them all week. So just watch the rest of this video. When it's over, and we'll be back in with Northern Perspective. Enjoy.
Now, so the Liberal government is the one that brought in the bail system we have now. And that's why the same criminal is released within hours of being arrested. In Vancouver, because of Trudeau, the same 40 offenders were arrested 6,000 times. Let me say that again. 40 offenders arrested 6,000 times in a year. That's 150 arrests per year per criminal, because Trudeau brought in a system that requires police release them on bail within a few hours of being arrested. The same criminal gets arrested 3 times in a day sometimes. We've been calling for an end to catch and release for years, and in fact, Trudeau has the power to do it. He's got a majority government with the coalition and with the NDP. He's had 8 years to reverse this policy. He hasn't done it. So we're ready we'll pass it this afternoon. In fact, call Mr. Virani and tell him I'm happy to bring back Parliament today, and we'll pass bail reform by midnight. Well, can you call him?
Yeah, sure.
You'll call him?
Yes.
Okay, well, so I'm very curious to see what he says when you call him.
Okay, I promise you right after this interview, we will call Mr. Virani.
Excellent.
And tell him that this is what you requested from
Mr. Virani, you're getting a phone call. Get ready. He's going to call, and Mr. Atwell is going to give you a call, and he's going to ask you to recall Parliament, pass bail reform tonight. Will you do it?
Well, that was that. That was unbelievable. All right. Well, without further ado, I got some guests in tonight, and I've been looking forward to speaking with them. They run a channel, and well, we're gonna get into it right away. You're gonna notice there's no live people in. It's two people, avatars speaking, and we're gonna get into why that is just now. All right. Northern Perspective, welcome to the show. All right, can you hear me? Oh, I did this again. This is two weeks in a row. I've done the same thing, and I messed up the whole thing. Can you guys hear me over there?
We can hear you just fine. Can you hear us?
Oh yeah, I can now. I was trying to be all slick and bring you guys in separately. I had to do a little squashing to the camera there.
That's okay. They say the camera adds 10 pounds. You just took 20 off.
I guess I did 20 off. Okay. Fair enough. Okay, fair enough. All right. So you guys run a YouTube channel. It's Northern Perspective, and you guys give commentary on Canadian news and politics and that sort of thing. And I just first, before we get into any stuff, just an explainer for why you guys use avatars instead of showing up on camera.
Because we're horribly ugly.
Well, one of us is, and I'll let you decide who that is. It's not me. So we talked about doing this for probably about 4 or 5 months prior to us actually getting into it. We originally were, just watching events unfold with Jordan Peterson, the Bill C-16 legislation, and just how that completely blew up in the public, and all of the different paths that Jordan fell down, and we kind of fell down with it because we were just watching his videos. And then we started seeing how the far left was starting to impact the school system and all of the other institutions regarding the kids. And we have a son, and he's special needs. We've revealed that, and we couldn't tolerate how things were going to unfold for him, and us knowing that we sat back and did nothing. So we decided that we were going to try to give our take on what was going on. I have a unique perspective on things, given where I work. And the problem is that you look at Jordan Peterson, you look at, there's a gentleman out west who was a Canadian Mountie. I'm sure you probably did a story on that, Clyde, back when it happened. So he used to have a YouTube channel, and he used to call it the Church of Justin Trudeau. And he was found out, and he was completely canceled by the RCMP, and his YouTube channel disappeared. He went on administrative leave, and he just vanished because he was essentially
that, actually.
No, look it up.
I will.
And it's hard to find stuff now. It's hard to find stuff now on it.
What was the name of the channel?
It was like the Church of Trudeau or something like that.
Yeah, it was either the Church of Trudeau or the Church of Justin Trudeau. You won't find it on YouTube anymore. But we still actually have the video that we did when it first came out. It was way back in, I think, January, February or something like that.
Oh, okay.
And then there was another case where there was a social worker working for the government who just posted on Twitter that there were 2 genders, and she was fired from her government job. So that's been happening in government, and in some cases, some of the left-leaning private sector organizations. And given who I work for, we were very paranoid for my job. We're a single income family, and we couldn't take the risk of just showing our faces, giving the cancel culture going on. And the problem is once you're canceled, you're done, right? So if I was to be relieved of my position where I was, I would have a lot of concerns getting another position in another organization. So we were really concerned early on. We actually had voice modulators and everything.
You went right out, all out.
Yeah. We used, or up until recently, we used these ridiculously looking cartoon puppets that we know, hurt our subscriber uptick, but it is what it is. This is the world we live in, where free speech is not free.
Right.
Your opinion is a slave to the establishment right now, and we're seeing it eroded with every passing day, with every passing piece of legislation that Trudeau, puts in. And everyone called people that were talking about this, 8 months ago, conspiracy theorists, but it's law now. It's law. There you go.
Yeah, I've got the story up here. The BC Mountie anti-Trudeau website raises concern about discriminatory views within the RCMP. And police officer...
And you couldn't tell who he was.
Well, that's the guy there.
That's the guy there.
Yeah.
So their justification was, we can't trust him to execute his duties as a Mountie in a non-biased fashion. Yeah.
You're not allowed to have an opinion. Is that
This is the crap that they're coming up with. Just like Jordan Peterson was tweeting all of this stuff, and it wasn't until he started tweeting anti-Trudeau stuff that his college came after him. So, apparently you're not allowed to have an opinion.
Well, we know that. We know that at this point.
Unless you're a liberal judge, then you get appointed.
Right. Unless you're I have such a hard time with this. And okay, so I can understand now, like, what the position that you're in. I'm getting a super chat.
And believe
here.
me, it is such a pain in the ass to use all this extra technology on top of what we already have to use. We would rather just start the cameras, Fox put on a little makeup, and then we're just off the races. That would be so much easier to do than all of this extra stuff. And
I've actually got some ideas for you. I'd like to pitch after the show.
Sure.
We'll have a chat with that, because I don't know. I like to get my creative juices flowing and come up with different concepts. When you got a problem, there's always a solution, right? And it's just it's one of those. We got a super chat from Robert McFallon saying Clyde, $20 super chat saying Clyde for ethics commissioner. I don't think I want that job.
You're disqualified, Clyde. You're not related to any of the liberal.
Yeah, that's it. I can't be that. I can't do that job. I'm not related. So, unfortunately, you have to be. I think at least a ski buddy, at least an old ski buddy of one of the Trudeaus to get that job. And that's my story. I'm sticking to it on that one. Sorry, I'm just trying to mess around with things to maybe get some more picture in here. I don't know if do you guys like this with the split screen with the web? I think maybe we'll.
It's fine for us.
Yeah, we'll stick with that then. That one works. That one works. All right. So, sorry, I was a little distracted there with trying to set things up. You know how it is, because you guys, again, you got so much complicated stuff going on just to get your voice out there. Now, has that made that difficult for getting people to like view what it is that you're doing? Because like I know a lot of people, they'll say like, well, if you got the guts, why don't you show your face? There's a lot of us that are doing that out there, and get your face out there. Clearly you have a good reason for not doing that, correct?
Yeah, I think my attitude is kind of people are going to comment no matter what we do. Like we had those ridiculous puppets. We still use them on Sundays on our live streams, so you can see them then.
Some people have grown fond of them.
Yeah, but when we switched to these, people said, "Oh, I like the old ones better," which that's fair. You've got your preference. And then I said to Cypher when we switch, because the end goal of the channel is to be able to just come on screen as you do and just show your face and talk and not have to worry about, any repercussions for Cypher's career. So I said, when that happens, people are going to go, yeah, you guys are ugly. So
and it's not, people, and it's funny, people will say, and I get it. People will say, well, why don't you actually do something? We are behind the scenes. So, we are not going to be just one of those channels that comments on things. And, there's a lot of good things about those channels. We're actually building some inroads with some of the MPs on the Conservative Party. So, we're looking to have at least two of them actually on our live stream to have some discussions.
Wow.
So, we want to take that step further. I've talked about on our streams, and I'm talking to our current MP about the possibility of a Conservative candidacy in an adjacent riding to where we are now, to see if Cypher can run for member of parliament.
Well, then that would totally out you. You'd totally be outed at that point.
I wouldn't have a choice then. But
how would that work too? Because like if you're, and this is so crazy, because if you go to run for office in Canada and you run on the right, could you get fired for that? I mean, I'm a mechanic. I do this. I put this out on the internet. Go ahead, call my shop. See what they say. You know what I mean? Try to get me canceled. It's not going to work. people still need their cars fixed, and there's a lot of people that are waiting in really, really long wait lists to get into garages, and they don't want to sacrifice a single mechanic. That's the way things are, and I mean, it's just the culture, I guess, of tradespeople. Who cares? Who cares what your politics are? Say what you got to say. We say way worse stuff in the shop, and this is with ladies in the shop these days. I mean, because we live in a, it's current year or whatever the the excuse is. But
well, I imagine the owner of your shop is not talking to everybody who works there about diversity, equity, inclusion policies.
No, but here's the thing: like, nobody cares. Like in realistic like terms. So like,
and nor should they,
my apprentice,
because it means nothing.
My apprentice is a woman. Do we care? No. Can she do the job?
Can she do the job?
Absolutely. Yes. That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's like, if you can't do the job, now we've got a problem. But if you can do the job, I don't care. I don't care any of that stuff. It doesn't matter to me.
But this is the problem, right? Because, I work at organizations where this is what they would argue, that I'm influencing, or I have the potential to influence employees that are under me because I'm in a quote unquote power position. So that's inappropriate for me to be expressing my political views. That's what they would say.
Well, I think Marxist ideology is inappropriate in the workplace, and that's exactly what that is. It's power and dynamics that comes from Marxist. It's a critical theory, which is Marxist theory, and yeah, of course, everybody has a position in a hierarchy. If there's managers and whatnot, but just because you have political views in one direction or another, I mean, that's just human. That we're not all going to agree on everything. But of course, if you had political views on the left, do you think you'd be worrying about that?
Oh, it would be completely safe. That's the thing. That's the difference. The difference is that on the left, if you have a political view and it aligns with the ideology, you're celebrated. If you have and the right, what the right will do is say, let's have a conversation about that because I disagree. That's what would happen.
Yeah.
But if you have that political view on the right, the rest of the right people on the right will say, okay, great, you basically align with us, and the left will say, cancel them.
Yes, and we've seen cries for that. Just 1 second, I'm going to hit a couple of these super chats. Construction Cronies with $10 says, keep the discussion open. Innovation comes from conflict and encouraging free ideas, of course. And I would add to that if you sunlight's the best disinfectant. The whole idea of, even bad ideas, bring out your bad ideas, bring them out. Some people are still even working on their concepts of how the world works. Bring them out, because this is how we all figure out where we stand on ideas, is by having dialogue with one another. Ryan Peplinski for 279 says, turn the MPs into the puppets. Can you do that on your live stream? That would be difficult, wouldn't it?
Oh, I'm sure we could.
We could.
Yeah.
We've even looked at there's a service, I forget what it is off the top of my head, but you can I think it's synesthesia or something. Anyway, you give it a script, and then it has AI realistic avatars. They read it out. So, that was one option that we were looking at. Anyway,
it's all tech stuff, though. I mean, it's all like more graphic stuff, more computing power, more graphics
crap
cards
that we would have to try and integrate into the stream. So,
and I'm familiar with that because I've done some pretty complicated streaming setups in the past. Before I was doing political YouTube, I was producing shows for a few different groups, and part of it was mixing a lot of stuff like you guys do, and then before that it was DIY stuff. So I've been around the YouTube game for quite a while, and it wasn't until I had a similar situation. It was the convoy. It went off, and I was a free agent. I wasn't working with anybody at the time. And I had the camera in front of me, and I was watching all of these live streams, and nobody was talking about it. And I was like, well, somebody's got to do it. And so I just thought, I'll regret it if I don't. Let's just turn that camera on and get it rolling. Say whatever. And sure enough, I
Absolutely.
had something to say. And I just kept going since.
And people liked what it was.
And the best thing about having a platform like this is not about like what I want to say and all of that. It's mostly about getting the ideas out there. And this is why I like having so many guests on. I like bringing people on with different perspectives and northern perspective, perhaps, people with different ideas. And I have been trying to encourage people on the left. Have you guys had any success with that? Because I haven't yet. I've been really, really pushing actually to try to get people on. Most people are scared of getting canceled if they come on my show.
It's either that or I find that there's an underlying. See, I believe that the vast majority of the people on the left subconsciously know that the ideology does not hold water. And I think some of them, or many of them, it impacts their courageousness to be able to come on any platform and discuss it, because when they start thinking through what their position is, it's not based on what they think. It's actually based on what somebody else has told them. And it's not based on fact. It's based on somebody else's opinion, the person who's told them. You see it on all of the red pill type of videos out there where they walk down the university campuses and they say, hey, what's your opinion on this? And then they're just regurgitating the ideology. And then when the interviewer just starts stating simple facts, you can see the short circuiting going on in their brain because they've never been prepared for this type of discussion. All they've been taught is follow the ideology, don't question it. So I think a lot of people are afraid of losing their religion, as it were, in coming on and trying to defend their liberal point of view. And not that it's even, liberal. So Fox and I, we're pretty much right in the center. We have views that go, one way. We have views that go the other way. The problem is if you're to the right of the far left in any fashion, they regard you as the far right. That's why there's no definition of the far right.
I don't know if you heard before you guys got on, I was talking about that, this whole concept of the far right. Why is it undefined? Why is it that it's left so vague that anybody can fit into that pocket? You know what I mean? Everybody.
Well, and there's a really good reason for that. It's because, and there's some guys that were talking about this earlier, videos I was watching earlier today, in that there's these different cults that are forming around the left. Like there's, climatism, there's, transgenderism, there's liberalism, and they're all almost like a religion. So the far right, equate that to Satan and the devil. You can't really define Satan and the devil other than it's the opposite of good.
Sure.
And if you could define it, then you have to actually put categories around it and reference facts. But there is none. What they do is they find these these far right nut jobs, like in the Ku Klux Klan and all of those guys and the skinheads, and that's what they point to. And then when in doubt, make stuff up, which is what they're trying to do with Pierre.
Yes.
In any way that they absolutely can, and it is so telling that they have nothing on him, because you keep hearing this crap. They still talk about the cryptocurrency.
Yeah, there's that. But I think they made a mistake in defining the alt-right. So I found a definition for alt-right, and it was, people who believe in identity politics, i.e. like nationalism and the ethno-state. And I made the clear argument, you're talking about lefties, right? You're talking about leftists and people that are identitarians and people like neo-Nazi groups. Sorry to break it to you, but they're on the left. Even if they think that they're on the right, that they're on the right, they and I showed the political spectrum the other day, and it was a linear thing. It's you go from anarchy, which is ill-defined for a lot of people. Anarchy is just like the root word in Latin terms is a meaning the absence of, and archy like a leader. So absence of leaders. So the absence of you know, a government or any of that stuff. That's anarchy, way on the right, very, 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 very far right. Then you come a little bit left and you find like minarchists, people who think that there is a role for the government, but a very minimal role for it, right? You go all the way to the other end of the spectrum and you're talking about totalitarianism, where it's all rulership. It's all, you're in serfdom. You're in whatever type of dictatorship that you want to define it as. And if you bring the scale back a little bit to the right from the far, far, far left, you'll find totalitarian regimes such as the communists, the socialists, the fascists, and they're all brands of each other, right? They're all, I mean, you could call them players in Marlboro and De Maurier. They're all cigarettes. You know what I mean?
It's forced utilitarianism is basically what it is.
Yeah. So I see people that are, identitarian groups, even redneck types. They're all lefties in my books. I don't see them as people who are striving for freedom and that's the horseshoe theory, I guess, that they brought up. You know, people go so far in their fights for freedom that someday they go a little too far for freedom and they become Nazis. Like, I don't get the concept there.
Yeah. Well, it's just the left's attempt to try to avoid any type of negative perception, negative government type. Like, the biggest thing that the left loves to do is blame, right? So they'll say, "Oh no, that wasn't us. That's still on the right. All the bad stuff, that's on the right. The left can't go too far, but the right can." That's what they basically argue.
Well, they say they can. We can go too far right, and that's the whole thing that they're arguing with this. But yeah, I think that's an interesting concept that you bring up. That people, well, essentially, that people they don't know how to defend their own position, and they secretly know that their position will fall apart, so they'll find an excuse to get out of the conversation or just cancel the person who brings it up so that they don't. Am I representing that correctly?
Yeah, pretty much. And because if you listen to almost any debate between someone who is, you know, intellectually grounded and presents the arguments well on the right, and someone who tries to present arguments well on the left, it eventually resorts into some sort of personal attack or an insult from the person that's on the left, because, like, it's just common sense at this point, and you can't argue with common sense without looking stupid. So they either are forced to accept the other person's position, which they can't because that's how they make their living, which is arguing from the left position, or they pick the hill that they're going to die on and end up looking foolish and they start to refuse to address the points. They start to go on character attacks. That's how you know you've won an argument with somebody on the left. And Bill Burr actually has a very, very good analogy to this. I'm not sure if he meant this or not, but he talks about arguing with his girlfriend. And
okay.
if you watch that bit, replace girlfriend with the left.
All right.
Because he says, you know, so men, you know, they present an argument, they're logical, they're factual, and you know, I figured out how to win an argument with my girlfriend. You know, she's just going to sit there and stir this pot of this like evil statement that she's concocting, and all you have to do is stay on point, make your arguments, and she's just going to lob this Hail Mary insult that's designed to just get you so worked up that you call her a C word. And then you're no longer talking about the original argument. Now you're in trouble for calling her the C word.
Yeah, that's it.
That's the left. If you think about it, that's the left. So when they can't win an argument, they try to bait you into some sort of character attack. And then at that point, they've won if you engage in that.
I agree with that. Now, I used to call Twitter, I used to tell people I go to Twitter so you don't have to. And I always likened it to trying to have an intellectual conversation with a chihuahua behind a chain link fence. And that's how it's always felt for me on Twitter. And I've had this many times. So yes, you'll get into the ad hominem attacks or things like that, or they'll try to attack your argument in a nonsensical way, or just say like, oh, that logic
Or they'll
is
misrepresent it. That's another strong tactic.
yeah, your logic is truncated. Your things like
so
that.
What you're saying is,
oh yeah, misrepresentation. That is another good one. I thought that after Kathy Newman got blasted for that with Jordan Peterson, people would stop using that tactic, but no, it's still alive and well, very much so. To just try to misrepresent somebody's ideas, and it's gotten so far to the point where they're not trying to misrepresent your ideas to somebody else, because that's typically how it works. It's like, oh, there's an audience listening, but now people have gone so far to the point where they try to misrepresent your ideas to yourself and gaslight you in this really, really weird way, to get you to, I don't know the purpose is, other than to frustrate and then end the conversation. But this is I mean, people, this is where we're at. We're frustrated. Canadians are just at a point where it's almost like there's a stalemate. There's people that want to have discussion. There's people that are just so awful. And then everybody else is like, I don't want any part of it. I'm not going to do any of this. Forget it. What do we say to those people that have given up? And largely those people are the reason why the left has gotten away with so much, because so many people are just trying to be civil in the whole thing, right?
Well, here's the thing. Trudeau's mistake was he completely destroyed the affordability of Canadians prior to implementing his agenda, because I believe it was Abacus in one of their latest polls. There was some commentary on that, and it was very interesting. And it goes to exactly the demographic of people that you're talking about. So they've, over the past 6 months or so, you've seen people, move between Liberal supporter to NDP supporter to Conservative. Well,
I believe it did go just that way too, and I've explained many times why I think that's true. But go ahead.
What they're seeing now is people that they were polling before that were saying, I didn't vote in the last election. They're actually responding now, and they're saying, mark me down as Conservative.
Wow.
So what's happening now is Trudeau has essentially woke up the sleeping dragon of that 32% that didn't vote in the last election, because they are so pissed that they can't afford anything anymore, and they know that the only thing that they can do is vote. That's the only thing that they can do now. So they're starting to see that number start to be represented, and it's swinging over to the Conservative side. The Liberal voters seem to be moving over to the NDP because they don't want to vote for the Conservatives, but they don't want to be associated with the Liberals anymore. And then the NDP voters, some of them are abstaining, and some of them are moving to Conservative. That's the way things are kind of trending right now. But to those people that still are undecided, the message is that Canada needs you now more than ever.
Yes, and a lot of people have been complaining that Pierre Poilievre isn't pandering to the right, and I've said it a number of times. Like, you got to realize he probably doesn't care, and I mean, it sounds callous. It sounds completely callous, but like, he's not vying for your votes, and this is the sad part of how democracy works. But he's after the votes that aren't voting for him. Like, he's after the ones that are currently undecided.
100%, because that's what he needs.
Yeah, because he's not going to get elected in by, pandering to the things that Maxime Bernier has to say. You know what I mean? He's going to leave that one alone. And I know, and like, even on Twitter, Maxime Bernier was getting a bit of pushback from even his supporters when he was ragging on Pierre this week. And it's like, well, why are you not even ragging on Trudeau? Like, what are you doing, man? Like, you're not even running against this guy now. It's not going to happen.
Well, the great thing is that Pierre's whole platform, right, is common sense. He keeps saying that. And
by the way, one of my favorite books by one of the founding fathers of the United States of America, Thomas Paine, he wrote the book Common Sense. I think everyone in this audience should read that book.
I agree. And if he stays on that point, and I have no worry that he's not going to, because he's been in this game for 20 years. He's not one of these new politicians that's in a position of leadership that's just going to go, start a plan and then go off script. He's seen it all. That's the great thing about him. Mm-hmm. Is again, if he just keeps saying common sense, and all he's doing is stating facts. You can't afford your house. You can't afford your mortgage. You can't afford your gas. You can't. And he is saying, here's the ways that I'm going to make it affordable for you. What Canadian in any demographic, in any political spectrum, cannot relate to affordability? And the answer is, very few. It's only going to be the super elite.
Yeah, why would he talk about the contentious things like abortion or transgender or any of this stuff when that's only appealing to the extremes? And right. Maybe not all the people who are against it or for it are extremes. Maybe they're just out of the sides. But the people in the middle, like all the people who just don't care about that stuff and it doesn't concern them, those are the votes that he's trying to get. I mean, he's already got the votes of the other ones, and like for all intents and purposes, people who are arguing against the transgender stuff in schools and whatnot. Are you gonna not vote for PP? Like, are you really? Is that really what you're gonna not vote for him because he's not bringing it up? I doubt that that's a realistic proposition for a lot of those people.
Well, and people need to really understand something about that. So the transgender ideologies that is being perpetuated in schools, I think we can all agree is a reprehensible thing that is going on.
I don't think you'll find somebody who listens to this channel who doesn't agree with what you just said. Yeah.
Right. But Pierre's track record as a politician is he's exceedingly careful with what he says and when he says it.
Yeah.
And one of the things that he has been trying to be very careful over the years is that he doesn't want to say or do something and then have it come and bite him 5 years down the road. And someone said, well, you were saying this and now you're doing it. Mm-hmm. So here's the thing that people need to understand about the roles of government. The federal government has zero input on the education system within the provinces. Mm-hmm. That's up to the provincial government.
Yep.
As such, he has to stay out of that sandbox. The Premier of New Brunswick, that's why Pierre was not saying anything about that. He didn't say anything until Trudeau tried to weigh into that.
Yeah, and I remember what he said. He said was, I don't interfere in these matters between the provinces and their schooling systems. I don't do that.
Yeah, and he said Trudeau needs to butt out.
Yeah,
because it's not his political theater.
I think where people became disappointed though was in the situation where he was photographed with that man wearing the straight pride
green shirt.
Yeah, and then I don't think he even said it. It was his team that came out and denounced it. Right, just come out and denounce it right away. I think a lot of people were upset with that because, wait, did you have to denounce it? Can't you just come out and just tell them like it is? It's a joke. Get over it.
Well, what he said, he did actually say something. They asked him about it, and he just said, "I don't agree with the shirt," and then he moved on.
Yeah, and that was the end of it. But I guess, and Danielle Smith came out and said more.
Oh, she did.
Yeah, and this is, I guess, a fault of Danielle Smith when they come for her, they try, they come out with their little pokey stick, denounce that thing, and she obliges almost every time.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are frustrated with that whole thing. People want somebody as a leader to have the cojones. I mean, even a lady, and maybe not in that way, but the figurative cojones to stand up to this cultural crap that's going on, because they see the cultural fight as the economic fight. The economic and the political fight. down the road, because well, politics and economics, you cannot, they're inseparable. Don't
Right.
You're not going to convince me otherwise. A lot of people try to say that Marxist ideology was not an economic theory. It was absolutely an economic theory.
Oh, it's completely economic theory. Like what else would you categorize that as?
Well, you couldn't.
If not an economic, you're right.
Well,
Because
I
it's-
think
it's-
he tried to make it a social theory because the economists all discounted it as ridiculous.
when you're talking about the workers are the means of production,
It's absolutely
come
economic.
on, where does that leave?
The concept of like the ability to own property. Hold on a second, I got to catch up on some of these super chats.
Sure.
Vander Key and Locke gifted 10 Clyde Do Something memberships to the channel. Thank you so much, everybody. Get in there. Thank Vander Key and Locke for the subscriptions, the memberships that we were given. G Meister, the $5 super chat, says, Clyde, can you drag these fine folks into the Discord after the stream? We have questions. I don't know. Would you guys be willing to do that?
Yeah, send us a link.
Sure.
Absolutely. Links in all my videos. It's right in the description of every one of my videos.
Okay,
so
sounds good.
it's in there. Join up. You guys obviously are on Discord, so that wouldn't take much more than clicking that link. Mike Roth with a $5 super chat says, my insurance broker told me chickens are not allowed anymore. What? So I have to get rid of them or wait to be burned out of my BC government. Whoa, that's crazy. That's
Some cities have bylaws against that. They categorize them as livestock.
What? Oh, I knew people in cities couldn't have them, but are they canceling people's chicken coops now? Is this something?
Oh, like in rural areas? I've not heard that.
Yeah.
It depends because, like, I have an uncle who lives technically within the city limits of Ottawa, but he's like out in the country and he has chickens and he's not supposed to have chickens, but he lives like in the middle of nowhere, so nobody knows that he has chickens.
Who's going to come and check?
Well, I always live by the.
And he gives eggs to all of his neighbors, so no one's going to.
Oh yeah, who's gonna say? Oh, I don't want any more eggs. Forget that. I always live by the old.
Raise the price of eggs to $10 an egg. So.
I always live by the old adage that it's easier to ask for forgiveness than it is to ask for permission. Just go with that.
Yep, use that all the time.
Michael McLean with a $5 super chat says, I just found Northern Perspective this week on YouTube and subscribed. I heard they were going to be on Clyde today. Double reason to watch Clyde. Go on. Nice. Nice. That's really cool.
Welcome aboard.
Absolutely. Totes McFresh, member for 12 months, says, whoa, 12 months. Where's the time go? Thanks again, bud. Amazing. Amazing. And I think there was one more in there as well. Yeah, Mike Roth again with another $5 super chat. I'm still fiscally conservative and socially liberal, but Trudeau and the CBC have corrupted the narrative and call me an extremist. It's a darn shame. And I think I'm going to have to say that I fall in that same category, right? I've never actually considered myself a conservative, even though I voted for the Conservatives in several elections. And while we're still at it, Dixon Cider-Bush with the member for 12 months says, your conversations... Sorry. Oh, I'm getting lost here. Conversations with your guests can open the most stubborn individuals' minds to rationale. I find the subject matter key to unlock them. He's a locksmith, so he's throwing some puns in there. But yeah, getting on that, I've never considered myself a conservative. When I grew up, I don't know. I've always been political minded, but I didn't fit myself into the Liberal Party or the NDP or any of that stuff. When I was younger, I was actually a punk rocker, and I was like, rebellious anarchist, and then I started reading about it, and I realized that, anarchy's terrible. Wow, that's crappy. You need some sort of government or some sort of role of government, but a very minimal role. I watched all my other punk rock buddies turn to socialism, and they went completely the other way, saying that they want total government control, which I think is...
They want no freedom.
No freedom. Yeah, thanks. No freedom. That's great. I don't think that they really realize what they're signing up for, and that's what I think is happening. And I think that it's along the lines of what you were arguing about people on the left, and they don't really know their stance, or they can't defend it. And if they were to scrutinize it, they would end up having to red pilling themselves in a lot of ways, or it creates this cognitive dissonance in your own head, and it's really, really difficult to have that suspension of disbelief in any way. But yeah, this concept. So in Canada, we don't really have like a hard right. We have hard lefties, big time. We got two main parties: the Left Party and the Lefter Party, the Liberals and the NDP, and then you have the Conservatives, which used to be called the Progressive Conservatives, and everybody forgets that progressivism. They don't want to associate themselves with that anymore. But
well, we used to have the Conservatives, we used to have the Reform Party, then we became the Progressive Conservatives when those two merged, right? So we at one point we had our two right-leaning parties, but then that was pretty short-lived.
Right. But I find a lot of Canadians are pretty socially conservative on a lot of things. Like, yeah, you're gonna have your Christian right, and that's a demographic in Canada. I don't think it's a huge demographic, but it is a substantial demographic. But then you have a lot of people that are, a lot like what I say on the channel. Like, I don't care if people want to do whatever with their dingus. I don't care. That's their business. As long as you do it in the privacy of your own home and whatever, right? And consenting adults.
I would say that's 95% of Canadians.
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty straightforward with that. And yet we have like a lot of people who are want to be fiscally conservative, because we've seen now within the last 10 years, we've seen what it's like. 8 years of Trudeau, but we've seen what it's like when there's a big economic collapse and we have good, solid fiscal policy, and how well we fare. For a lot of people who didn't live outside of Canada, I lived in Japan at the time of the Lehman Brother crash, so they called it in Japan, but it was the subprime mortgage issue. Canada was left unscathed, relatively. It was pretty easy for a lot of Canadians. Japan got hit pretty hard. America got hit really hard. And it was the conservative policies of Stephen Harper. And don't like him because he didn't make weed legal or all these other things that I thought were insignificant and kind of weird for the Conservatives to hang on so dearly to. But it cost them an election over it, essentially. But
yep.
I think most Canadians are like kind of a fiscal conservative, social liberal type creatures. Why is it so hard to sell them on the Conservative Party? What is that?
Because the media, you can see it even recently where they're saying, oh, Pierre Poilievre is supporting the far right. I don't know why, but the media in Canada is like extreme left. And I should say, I do know why. It's because they're funded by the government, and the government right now is liberal.
Well, it also goes deeper than that. So, the left, and this is the concerning thing. It looks like the people that are really influential and high up in the left have a very long game that they've been playing, and it started about 10, 15 years ago. And it started when they started to get into professor positions in these universities. And when they started there, they started to be able to look at these young adults and say, all right, this is how the world works, and you're going to be graded on this. And they said, oh, okay, sure. And then they bought into that. And then those young adults became adults and went out into the workforce and started getting influential positions. Now you're seeing the left-wing ideology starting to be, well, not started, it happened under all of our noses. It's now being rammed down everybody's throat right from kindergarten. And it seems like the agenda is to just manufacture left-wing voters right from the time that they're 5 years and 6 years old, and make sure that they're being exposed to specific left-wing ideological concepts, so that when they're actually exposed to the political spectrum, and that they've had that rooted within them for so long, that when they actually see the opposing view, because they never see it, to Fox's point, because the media is all left-wing, they see the conservative view, they'll say, oh, well, that doesn't align at all with what I want. So no, of course I'm not going to vote with that. I'm going to vote on the left. And then you see Trudeau bringing in all of these immigrants. Well, by default, where are the immigrants going to typically want to vote? To the party that brought them in. So that's going to be the Liberals. So he's been manufacturing voters all of this time, and the left has been manufacturing voters, for the last 10 or 15 years. At first, I thought this was just some stupid conspiracy theory, but you hear Jordan Peterson talk about it. Our former MP that we actually interviewed out in New Brunswick, not our former MP, a former MP, he actually said, "Screw this." He retired from politics and went and bought a trailer park out east. So he, I put this to him, and he said, "No, that's absolutely what's going on." And he's been in government for 16 years as a conservative. So,
and he's watching it happen in real time.
Yeah.
So like the conspiracy theory,
going on.
you're describing what Yuri Bezmenov went around on tour in the 1980s describing. He talked about it as ideological subversion from the Soviet Union, when the Soviet Union was still around, right? He said they came in the 1970s and they sowed the seed in academia.
Yep.
That's
where it starts.
For this to happen. And he says it will take entire generations to come to fruition, but it would be decades before it happens. And when it does, it'll be the ideas of these people will be unrecognizable from the modern left. And he said this in the 80s. And I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy to think about, because you said like sounds like a conspiracy theory, but it's happening. I was showing on the show earlier today somebody with fantastical green hair saying their little political point, saying that people on the left want to save transgender people from genocide, and people on the right want to commit genocide. Like literally, they believe that the people on the right literally want to kill them. And then said, if you're...
And you can tell they've only been having conversations with one type of people.
Right? And it's like, but it's at a certain point, it gets so crazy that, you might see violence from these people. You like, they might, out of an irrational fear, and it's completely irrational, but a genuine fear, because they believe it, that they're under attack, they're in imminent danger. So they might find...
I don't think there's any might about it, Clyde. We've seen it already with the Black Lives Matter protests. That's what happens.
Okay, point taken.
That's what happens.
Yeah, point taken.
So it is happening, and these people, they don't even know why, but they just think this is the right thing to do because they've been told this is the right thing to do. This is how you can be righteous. This is how, in your it's typically young people, in your very young early life, you feel like you're nobody in this vast world. Now you can feel like you're doing something and you're fighting for the righteous, and they go out and they do it. And I guarantee if Trudeau wins the next election, those Black Lives Matter riots are going to look like a picnic compared to what's going to happen in Canada, because there's no way, unless something crazy happens with Pierre, there is no way that the Liberals win the next election if it's legitimate.
I would actually go on to say that if the Conservatives win, you'll see more of that. You'll see more of this stuff. You saw more of it during Trump than you did under Biden, and it was all encouraged. It was the purpose of it, and this is my theory, and I'm entitled to it and whatever. But I think it was encouraged because they wanted voters to think that the violence in the streets will end if they get their way. So give them their way.
Well, it's domestic terrorism, right?
And I would define that as that, yeah, because it's very much violence with the explicit intent of changing political policy or for political means.
Well, and here's the other thing. So you sound well read, so you probably read 1984 by Mr. George Orwell.
Yeah, spoiler, it's not a good ending.
No.
I have to keep telling people that.
But people that haven't read it, they don't know how close we are to oblivion with Bill C-11 and C-18.
Yeah.
Like, we are so close to becoming a Korea or North Korea / Chinese internet environment where we don't get to see any opinions other than what the CRTC, ergo Trudeau, wants us to see.
Well, people have this.
We are.
Sorry, I'll let you finish your thought.
I was just going to say we're so close to that, and we need to see more Belleville type of Trudeau appearances where he is just and the people of Belleville did that so well. Like they yelled at him, but they kept it peaceful, which was great. Although the media tried to spin it as not, but we need more of that.
Yes, I was going to say that I think people they're hesitant to think that the government would actually commit atrocities, when historically throughout human nature, peaceful government is actually the anomaly of all things. There have been more tyrants throughout history than there have been omniscient leaders. You know what I mean? There's been more devastation at the hands of government, and especially in the 20th century. You know, and we're talking in peacetime. In peacetime, deaths at the hand of governments exceed 100 million people.
Oh, easily.
Domestic. I'm talking domestic governments terrorizing their own people, and this is the reality of the situation. And for people to think that could never happen here is completely naive. Especially,
it has happened.
It has happened here.
Well, maybe not with the deaths, but with the government control. I mean, look what happened during COVID. You know, we were all locked in our homes, and then when a vaccine became available, you had to get it or you'd lose your job.
Well,
yeah,
and
what I meant by was like actual atrocities of like millions dead, cattle cars, and all of that stuff. And absolutely, the COVID pandemic and the response to it was. I mean, we're stepping in that direction. And a lot of people are willfully trying to forget that whole scenario that you just described. A lot of people are trying to just blow it off like, well, we were just trying to, you know, they were trying to do their best. And, you know, some people got hurt in the process, but that's whatever, right? I've heard so many people say like, what freedoms have you lost? This is such an argument that that frustrates me, that I keep hearing people say. And it's like, well, you don't have to look very far to see that by government decree, they limited many freedoms that are listed right on the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Your ability to travel, you know, all of this, and it just gets blown off. And I think that comes from the fact that people, they just don't want to see their government as being this bad thing. We've got this idea that Canadians are nice, and we've always been good and kind, and I have to remind people.
It's almost an answer. It'll never happen to me, right?
Right, and this is why I have to remind people. Weimar Germany before the World Wars. I'm
very educated on this, so let's get into it.
Well, I'm not going to get into like the fine details of it, but it was considered one of the top echelon societies in the world. It's where a majority of classical music comes from. Like, well, maybe not a majority, but a huge number of composers came from there. High class society, aristocracy, all of this stuff, and it turned into a murderous group of individuals like that. Like these are the things that happen. Tchaikovsky, one of my favorite composers from Russia. We have so many amazing works that came out of Russia. One of the grandest societies the world had ever seen prior to the World Wars. And they broke down into tyranny of communism. And, you know, they have a death toll of 40 million people this is outside of wartime. These things can happen.
Nobody talks about that.
Mao came in after incredible dynasties in Chinese history. They had incredible history, and they came in and destroyed everything.
Well, and all of the culture, all of the art, all of the creations by these rich societies, communism appropriates them and they disappear from history.
Yeah.
And it's so sad, all in the name of utopia. And, you know, like I used to live in Toronto, and we used to talk about the Toronto Transit Commission, and we say, the TTC is like communism. It works in theory because it never worked.
It never worked.
So
is the TTC that bad?
The problem?
I lived in Toronto for a bit.
Terrible.
The subway was okay. I mean, it was never great.
It's terrible.
Okay, I lived there like more than 2 decades ago, I think.
But the big problem with communism is not the system. The problem is people. And because of people being the way they are, communism will never work. And humanity needs to just accept that.
I see where you're going.
And move
with
on.
That, yeah. But I think that's the allegory in Starship Troopers, the actual book. The allegory of that is the concept that there's this other race of beings that are insects and they're communists. And that's the undertone in the thing is communism will work if we were organisms that were based on like colonies and stuff like that, like in their innate characteristics. But because we descended from apes, we could never, ever fall into that category. It just wouldn't work.
But the irony is even at the end, they show that the insects do have a tyrannical overlord, which is the bug brain, right? So it's interesting how that works.
At all ends, communism is not good, and that's really the big thing. And where a lot of people, have misconceptions of this is, and I like to break this down because I think this is a more important way to discuss this with people, because a lot of people get mixed up in the convoluted ideologies of these people. They'll say, well, I'm not a communist, I'm a socialist. And it's like, well, okay, well, the communists are socialists if you read Marx's work. They're just what, doing it better? I don't know. How do you define these things? And where I like to bring it down right to the crux of the conversation. We have two schools of thought in society going on right now. We have a group of people who call themselves socialists who do not respect property rights, and they do not they don't wish to care about respecting property rights. That's not their purview. They think that some other greater good is more important than property rights and the rights of individuals. And I specifically say property rights because property rights refers to it originates in one owning oneself. You can't be the property of a state. You can't be the property of something else. You're your own person. You own yourself. Then you own the fruits of your labor and so forth. And you go out into like the definitions brought out by John Locke. And it's amazing. It's a beautiful thing when you understand what property rights are. And you have the camp that believes in property rights, and then you have a camp that does not wish to believe in property rights. And I think fundamentally, this is how we can win over people who are kind of on the fence about this whole thing, is once you realize that when they're saying capitalism, they're really talking about market economy. They're talking about your ability to own your home, own a business, even a small business, be able to have patrons and have them exchange goods and services. Like all of these things are fundamental to the idea. And this is why Marx called it capitalism, because he thought that only the people who own the capital, the means of the production, right? That they're the movers in society. I think that the consumers are the movers in society. I think and I'm not arguing for a consumer-based economy, but I think that the consumers are the movers in society because they're the ones who dictate what the people who own the capital do with their capital.
Well, if you want proof of that, look at Bud Light.
That's a great example, actually.
Because, and we've seen this, your consumer base can dictate exactly what you do. It doesn't matter how big you are. They can definitely do that. And the other thing is capitalism. The opponents to capitalism think that capitalism is the be all and end all of all economic systems. Whereas any competent capitalist will tell you capitalism, it's not a great system, but it's the best system that we have right now. There's flaws all over it, but it's what we have. And capitalism has lifted more people out of poverty in the last 100 years than in the last, 8,000 years in human history.
Yeah.
So it can't be that bad. And sure, there's problems with it. Fix the problems. Don't throw out the system. Like when you have a wall that's having a problem in your house, do you replace the drywall or do you tear down the house and build a new one? It doesn't make sense to tear down a mostly working system. Now, again, we're also assuming that the problem with the system is the system, whereas I think the majority of the problems with the system is the corruption that people bring into that system, and it's how do you put in safeguards against that corruption? But for the most part,
well, I hate to sound like
is a meritocracy.
I'd hate to sound like well, that's not true capitalism guy, but what I look at is, so we have a natural state as human beings. We're social creatures, and we want to communicate with each other, but then we also want to trade with each other. And that all stems from the barter system. The barter system is you have goods that I want, and I have goods that you want. But then there's the double coincidence of wants. You have to be a chicken wanting pickle farmer and you have to find the pickle wanting chicken farmer in order to have trade. Yep. So we have, things like currencies. Money comes from a number of other commodities that we find that people will trade amongst each other in a thing. It's all voluntary. The whole purpose of the market economy is it's voluntary. Now, where things go wrong in this, well, first. For that to function, you have to not have people roving bandits coming and taking people's goods. So the market economy won't work if people are coming and stealing people's stuff, because people, they have different incentives because of that. If people keep stealing their stuff, but only usually like bandits won't leave them with nothing. If they want to come back and rob them again, this is how warlords work in the third world. They won't rob them of everything. So what people
they take just enough.
They take just enough. So what people learn to do is only make just enough, and then that stifles the economy. And this is a real lesson that people can take from this in economics, right? If we stifle people in our economy, they'll do the same thing. They'll only make just enough to get by, and then they won't make any more. Why make excesses if it's just going to get taken from you? So this is the reality of this situation. So we have to have people come in and justify, or come in and police the system to make sure that nobody is stealing other people's property. And this is why I think governments that respect property rights and enforce property rights are the most important thing. And then from there, you have contracts and all these other things. That is the perfect scenario for what people would call capitalism. But what most people call capitalism today is this cronyism, where we have bandits. They are the government. They're the regulators. Murray Rothbard said that when a market's regulated, the first thing to be bought and sold is the regulators. And this is the situation we're in. And even the conservatives and the liberals and NDP in Canada, they're all slaves to the dairy lobby. No one's going to say anything bad about the dairy lobby and change that racket that they've got going on, because they're too powerful. So I guess there's the no true Scotsman argument here, where it's like, we don't really have a true market economy, but we've done better in the past, and we know that when we had less restriction on the marketplace, we did better. And the more we bring in what I would call socialist principles and all of this stuff, the worse it's been getting for that economy.
Yeah, and to the argument you made about people will only perform, I think, to the minimal degree that they believe is required of them in general. You see that, and you saw it with COVID when CERBs started being distributed to everybody. They took that and they said, great, I don't have to work anymore. And you saw labor shortages everywhere, and you still see labor shortages everywhere. And Trudeau still wants to look at bringing in some sort of universal basic income, which would be an absolute disaster for the labor economy.
And I blame Milton Friedman for that. It's someone I respect, because he pitched that idea first. And he did it by saying that, it would be better than the welfare system, which is destructive.
And again, great intentions, but
he retracted it later in life. But it was that's where it came from.
But the problem is if the more socialist a society gets, that means the more the more the government essentially has control over how you live and where you live, and you end up with a less productive society overall, because people will just say, well, I don't need to do anything. I will just succumb to what the government is able to give me because I don't want to worry about it. And what we should be doing is, yes, you need some sort of support for the absolute worst off in society. It's up to, I think, more intelligent people than I to define who those people are. But you shouldn't be making investments in welfare. You should be making investments to provide opportunities for people to lift themselves out
Absolutely.
of their financial degradation that they find themselves in.
Mm-hmm.
Provide opportunity, because
if people are injured, say for example, and they can't do the job that they did, we could be retraining people, and in a real way,
right.
Not like the way that the social services do, where it's only if you qualify because you've been unemployed for X amount of years or whatever. No, like right away, somebody's been injured and he's like, I'm down, I'm out, I can't do the job I used to do.
Yeah,
okay,
here's the proof, no argument, retrain him.
Yeah, what would you like to get into? And then actually, I would be completely on board with helping people get back on their feet so that they can provide for themselves. I don't think that would be a something I would argue against as one of the social programs that we have to help them retrain after an injury. Absolutely. So
right.
these are things that we could do in society that they fall on the lines of what you're describing here.
Well, and I grew up in a very poor home. I had to go to university with. I had to put myself through university, as I know a lot of people did, and while doing that, I had to send money home to make sure my parents didn't lose their house and didn't lose their utilities and their gas and their electricity. I was in a very bad state financially when I came out of school, and I ended up paying off all my debt. I ended up, thankfully buying into the real estate market, before all of this went to hell. So, people can make it comfortably in Canada. You absolutely can do it. That means that the capitalism system that we have here, it works. It works to the degree that anyone can lift themselves out of poverty and get themselves to a point where they're supposed to be comfortable. Nobody's comfortable right now, but you can get there. And the issue is that the left is telling everybody, there's all of these obstacles in your way and you'll never make it, and here's all the reasons why, and everybody's racist, everyone's misogynist.
Oh, just killing people's libido. Like they're not going to fight for it if they think they'll never win. It's
right. And then they'll say,
it's just like they do to ethnic kids.
I better forget it.
Well, yeah, just like they do.
Forget it. Give me my government handout.
Exactly. Just like they do to ethnic kids. I think that a lot of Indigenous people, even in Canada, they're convinced that no matter what they do, they're just going to be held down. And that's the worst thing that can happen. That's the worst thing that you could do to somebody, is convince them, not just tell them, but actually convince them that the actions of other people will hold you back your entire life. That's just awful. That's awful because it's not true.
You also raise them to hate everybody. You raise them that, Indigenous kids, see all those white people? Yeah, they're evil. They're responsible for the plight of where you are right now.
Yeah, it's just awful. Because like a lot of the people here didn't cause any of that anyway. I mean, there's just so many people here. I mean, I'm a first generation Canadian, so I'm from immigrants, right? My dad's from America. My mom is from Scotland originally. I mean, the Scots never had a very good run of things throughout history. But nobody's.
They must really hate white people.
Well, right. But yeah, I just can't get on board with that stuff because it's scapegoatism, and that's how I've always seen it. Even if you somehow fall into a category that can claim victim status, you're gonna do yourself a disservice to claim it. And it's only like you might get a benefit in the moment, but long term it's gonna serve you terribly. And
yeah, they need to teach history as history, and they need to teach the present as opportunity. That's what they need to do.
I like that. I like that a lot, actually. Before we go, I wanted to get into one last topic, because we're talking about conservatives, we're talking about elections and what everybody's doing. PP seems to be avoiding this one topic altogether, and that's immigration. He just doesn't want to talk about it. And largely because, well, I think, and this is my theory, and you just roll with it, what you think. My theory is that all politicians are worried about the coming social security or social program crisis that we're going to be running into, especially when it comes to people retiring and collecting their pensions. With a dwindling workforce, less and less people in the workforce, and lots of people retiring, they've never saved that money. They never saved any of that the Canadian Pension Plan money. They spent it right away, and they're planning on just borrowing to give it to the next the people that retire. Now we need a workforce, so I think all the political parties are gung ho on immigration. Let's flood the gates. 500,000 new Canadians every year for the next, I don't know, in perpetuity, they're saying. Why is it that the Conservatives aren't getting on board with pulling that back, especially when Pierre knows that we need to cut a lot of the red tape to get the housing situation fixed, but the massive influx of new bodies is largely to blame for this whole situation with housing crisis.
So I'll let Fox take that one, and then I'll respond.
So who's to say he's not on board? He hasn't really said anything about numbers specifically. I think he's kind of caught between a rock and a hard place. I think Pierre knows that saying anything will get him vilified by the left and by the media and possibly lose votes. But I think he knows that once he gets into office, something needs to be done. I mean, he was the federal housing minister during Stephen Harper's reign. So this is his area, right? Like, he knows, he's not ignorant as to why there's no houses. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm just bringing up the fact that there's actually a good reason why politicians would want to keep that influx of new people coming in.
Oh, for sure. And I think
so. There is a bit of contention. Does he want to actually continue the Trudeau immigration policy, or does he want to bring it down? And I understand the popularity issue, and I understand that he'll get labeled as Trump if he starts saying, like, build a wall or shut down Roxham Road or any of that stuff. He doesn't want to be labeled as Trump, even though people who were like Trump supporters in Canada want to support him for that stuff. And they're largely a lot of the people that are saying, enough with this immigration. What's going on? It's insane. I think personally, I think the immigration thing's going to work itself out because of the economic downturn, because people won't want to come. But I mean, that's a completely different story. This is like, why? Which is it? Is it a case that he's just ignoring it because he doesn't want to get hurt in the polls, and he wants to, like you said, or is he actually wanting to continue this policy because of the crisis that's coming up for Social Security?
Well, one thing that Stephen Harper had tried to do regarding Canada Pension Plan was raise the age of retirement from 65 to 67, and it was the Liberals who put it back down to 65.
Yes.
The reason for that was because people are living longer than they used to. Mm-hmm. When the Canada Pension Plan was created, I can't remember what year, I think it was in the 60s, people were only living on average 6 years beyond the time they stopped working. Now it's 18 or 19. Mm-hmm. So that time that people are expected to be supported by CPP has now tripled. And the Harper government felt that many people may want to work beyond 65, especially when most of us are working desk jobs now. Like, not too many people work, really hard, vigorous jobs. And people enjoy it. A lot of people, their social life is at work. Their colleagues are their friends, and they would want to be in a position, like in their job, longer than 65. So that's why they had tried to raise it to help mitigate that the time that is being paid out, because not only are you not paying it for those extra 2 years, so from 65 to 67, you're not paying a person CPP, they're also still paying into the system for those 2 years.
Well, and that's a really, really important point. The fact that, the rest of Canadians are not paying the retirees only a couple of years when they're in retirement, and then unfortunately they pass away. We have, a much higher population, so you would assume that scaling should be appropriate for supporting these people. Well, it's not, because those same people are living that much longer, to Fox's point. So it's a different system now than it was when it was implemented. So therefore, if the criteria is different, then you can't expect the same outcome when the whole premise of supporting these people, the duration has changed. And as far as Pierre not talking about immigration, I think there's a couple of reasons. Number one, if I'm him, he's a no BS type of politician. He's pure fact, pure logic. If I'm him, one thing he could say, but even this would probably get him in trouble, is, listen, I don't know if the immigration number of 500,000 is too much. I don't know if it's too little. And how do we know if it's too much or too little? It's how well can we support these people that we're bringing in? All we know right now is the system is completely broken. And with a completely broken system, you have no idea what that number should or could be. So he has to appoint a very good minister to look at immigration and fix the system of bringing these people in and getting them to work. One of the things that'll make a huge difference is his Blue Seal program for the professions. That would make a very big difference in getting these people to pay. They'll be paying more CPP sooner. So you get them into those professions, that solves a problem. But that's only a very small problem with this system. They have to address refugees. They have to address how that's going to work. In our live stream with Construction Cronies the other day, he was talking about the fact that one of the major problems with home building is, yes, permits are a problem, but the majority of the problems are lack of tradespeople to actually build the homes.
Absolutely agree with that. Yeah.
So he needs to address that. And how do you address that if you're not going to look at immigration? Well, yes, you can say we're going to encourage tradespeople in the schools, and he's planning on bringing in legislation that's going to incentivize tradespeople, but that's a longer term solution versus the immediate that needs to be, looked at. So I don't know if you look at contracting some companies that are, out of the country and saying, you're going to come in, you're going to build 500,000 homes, you're going to do it in 6 months, get it done. There's different ways to do that, but it all comes down to, this is going to end up being, I think, a major part of his platform, and he can't give this away too early.
That's true. Okay, that is a very good point. That is actually a really good point. The thing you don't give your whole playbook out years before the election, and I think it is going to be years. I don't think that we're going to see a fall election. I don't see any point of Trudeau and Jagmeet Singh, who clearly are going to lose their position in the government in the next election, especially with where the direction of the polls are going. Why would they call for an election when they could ride it until 2025 and do all the stuff that they're ramming through for the next year and a half?
Well, what we're hearing is spring, and why spring? It's because of the boundary changes, and it's affecting some people in Jagmeet's caucus, and they are not going to be too happy if they don't call an election and the boundaries change, and then their seat is effectively gone. They can't even run for it because it's disappeared because of the boundary changes for the ridings in the next election, because that all comes into play next spring. So
it might end the coalition.
Correct. So the Conservatives and the Liberals and the NDP, they've been talking about a possibility of an election since March, and it's been mainly around the riding changes. That's what we've heard from the MPs that we've talked to in the Conservative Party. and it's why you saw like this amplification of theater start in April and May and June. Like everything went up like 10 notches all of a sudden.
Yeah, it all feels like campaigning, so it feels like election season, but it's not technically.
Yeah, so everyone is not taking any chances. So they are operating as if an election is coming, but it's going to come down to I think the NDP caucus. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. That's about all I can say without giving away too much about who our MP is.
Okay, well, that's fine. Yeah, you don't have to give that information out. But yeah, this is so much information. I love having these conversations, and having you guys on the channel is really fantastic. I really, really appreciate you taking the time to come on and chatting with me.
Oh, it's been great. Honestly, we believe that all of our types of channels really need to stick together on this. We cast a very wide net. Mm-hmm. You know, I've been pondering at somewhere down the line we get you know, yourself and us and Pleb, and I'm not sure if he's interested, but Sunshine Baby and Celtic Canuck, and it'd be interesting to do kind of like a podcast type of a chat, just to get everybody on the same stream and see what everybody has to say. It would be an interesting conversation, I think, to say the least.
Would be interesting. Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to get to a couple more of these super chats. Dixon Ciderbush with a $2 super chat says, new brand name, Rooster Wanting Pickles Farmers. I'm not going to say the actual word. He said something else, not Rooster. We got another one here. You know, I got that one from Dr. Walter Block. He's one of my heroes in economics. He's from the Mises School of Economics down in Alabama, I believe it is, or somewhere down there. The teachings of Ludwig von Mises, the Austrian School of Economics. Anyway, Unacceptable Fringe with the $5 super chat. 1/3 of the population of Calgary cross Roxham Road each year. I'm all for a better way of life for those that come here, but no more until we fix our own problems, he says. And that's a pretty fair assessment for a lot of Canadians. I mean, a lot of Canadians are saying, like, come on, we just can't keep adding to the burden of our society. But you guys do raise a very fair point. If we can bring in skilled people and have them get right to work, well, that would be beneficial. Absolutely. I think what a big thing is, a lot of people just don't want a lot of more empty bellies to fill. You know what I mean? Like, people that are coming over without skills,
yeah.
and
hands out, butts down types of people. Yeah,
that kind of thing. Michael McLean with the $5 super chat says, no more refugee sympathy until we start seeing some support and sympathy for our veterans and local homeless. We can't be everything to everyone. I would absolutely agree with that again. So again, we're all on the same page here. Immigrants that come over, I'm not saying shut the doors. I would never say shut the doors. Again, I'm from a family of immigrants. My wife is an immigrant, and this is something that we should all celebrate in Canada, is people coming here to breathe free. We just need to get that breathing free part back, and we need to make sure people are here in order to contribute to society, and then you know, we'd all be better off because of it. And I can't stress that enough. Personally, but hey, again, want to thank you guys for coming out. Stick around after we end the stream, because I wanted to chat with you guys before we go into the Discord. And of course, everybody, give us a little bit, and then we'll head on over into the Discord, and we'll go hang out and chat with everybody. So if you're not already a member of the Discord channel, the link is as always, is in the description down below. Go check it out. It says the Discord server, and click on that. If you're not used to Discord, or you don't know about Discord, it's another social media platform. You can download the app, or you could just use the web-based service. But it has some of the best voice and video than out of any other software. It beats Skype, it beats Zoom, it beats all of those others. So come check it out. Come chat with us. We make ourselves available quite often. Michael McLean again with another last minute super chat saying, I didn't say immigrant, I said refugee. I'm so sorry. Did I read that the wrong way? I really apologize for that if that's the case. But yes, refugees. Refugees, of course, are people who are supposed to go to, under the agreements of refugee agreements, go to neighboring nations to wait out any turmoil that's happening in their own country, and then return back to their country once the dust settles. I think we should get back to that when it comes to refugees. If we see that America is having any troubles, we would obviously take on refugees from America, but we don't have really many other neighboring nations, so I think that really exempts us from taking people on in those ways.
We could take Russian refugees, technically.
Technically, we could, absolutely. Anyway, we're gonna call it quits from here. I want to thank everybody for coming out to the live stream. As always, every Friday night we do this. This was a fantastic one. Amazing guests. Thanks again. Make sure you go over to Northern Perspective. Give them a subscribe. Make sure you're following them on all the social medias as usual. And well, we'll see you guys in the next one. Say goodbye. Say goodbye to everybody for the night.
Thanks, everybody. It's been great, and love the conversation. It's always good to have and get the message out there to people that need that little bit more of information that the mainstream media is not giving you.
Thanks very much for having us on.
Absolutely. Everybody,